This is Colourful Radio. Our music, our news, our views.
Good morning and welcome to the last hour of South Central with me, Lisa Bent. I'm here till 1 p.m, easing you into your day with some food for thought to spark the mind, music to nourish the soul, and nudges to tap into your heart and soul. I will now be speaking to Zena Tuitt, who is the founder of Phenomenal Healthstyle, a hobby blog that Zena used and still uses as a creative platform to share her journey on the pursuit for balance in the hope to inspire others. So I have Zena online. Hello, Zena. How are you today?
I'm great, Lisa. Hello. Thank you for having me on.
As I said, you are the founder of Phenomenal Healthstyle, which promotes finding the balance within your lifestyle. How did this come about?
Well, it was kind of for three reasons. One was I didn't have the balance, so I was a contradiction to what Phenomenal Healthstyle is now. It was the age-old kind of cliched scenario where working really hard, not really focused on anything else apart from work, and then got to a point where I was completely burnt out. And then above that, or within that, it was getting to a stage in my life where, there's certain transitions that you make, or you're said that you should make, just in terms of society, whether it's getting married, having children, and all those things. So you start to question, if you're not doing those things, why aren't I doing those things? Does it mean that I'm a lesser person? So all these questions started to kind of come up. And so I thought it's time to take a career break, or my body said it's time to take a career break. So having the break was an opportunity for me to think about what I really wanted, not allow other people's opinions to cloud my judgment in terms of what I wanted my reality to be, and then start to think about the things that I wanted to do and where I wanted to be in the future and what was really important to me based on the things that I wanted. And coupled with that, I had finished a contract. I was a change management consultant for a while, working in national health, and they were talking a lot about the fact that there was increased pressure on the national health system due to the increase of illnesses, and a number of those were lifestyle related, and things that we could do or to prevent those. So, for example, whether it was things that we're eating, whether it was not choosing to be active, whether it was putting a lot of stress on ourselves and not having the tools to manage that stress. So part of my thinking and how the idea of Phenomenal Healthstyle came about was, how do I address my own imbalance? How do I make choices about my lifestyle that are true to who I am? And then how do I take better accountability to start focusing on prevention rather than getting sick and then having to find ways to cure that? So just all those things. And then I love media. My first career was in media. I had these two great, I call them my WordPress angels, Hassan and Tamara, who were at the blog clinic, who taught me about WordPress and blogging and all this fancy things we could do with social media. And I thought that would be really interesting to see if I could create a platform using my interest in media and in the internet and WordPress, and share my story and work with other people who are on this journey. So that's kind of how the whole idea came about.
Brilliant. In what you said, it sounded like change was initiated by yourself, but it was also based upon the fact that it was almost forced upon you because of burnout and external pressures. And had you not made some kind of change, regardless of what avenue it was coming from, you probably would have been in more trouble.
Yeah, completely right. I think a lot of it was forced upon me. I think it was one of those, it doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual process where you don't realize that you're taking on too much, or not necessarily that you're taking on too much, but you don't have the tools to manage the new things that you're bringing into your life. So I went to a graduation recently, and it just made me think about the fact that we go to these graduations where the people get their bachelor's or their master's, and it's a significant event and there's a whole ceremony around it. But we're graduating every day, really, in our life, in terms of moving on from new attitudes, learning new skills, acquiring new friends, building new families, having more children. And as our life grows and becomes bigger, sometimes we don't have the tools or the skills to know how to manage these new things that we've introduced into our lives. And if we're not self-aware, and I know it's something you talk a lot about, of the changes that are happening, we can find ourselves in I speak from my personal experience, you can find yourself in a position where you get to a place and you're like, how did I get here? How did I have all these responsibilities and all this stuff and all these things to do? But if you speak to some of my friends now, they'll be like, well, you're still pretty busy. But I think the difference now is that I make choices that I didn't make before, and I also have tools that I didn't have before in order to better manage those things. So I think the difference for me was realizing, thinking about what I spend my time and energy on, and then finding the tools and the people that could help me to better manage the new things that I had learned and on this journey.
And how easy or difficult did you find it finding out the tools?
Well, it's one of those things where you change because I think the biggest way that you change, or the most impactful way that you usually change, is that it's too painful to stay the same.
Yes.
So I had always been interested in health and well-being. My mother had been interested in it, and I had read her books when I was younger, because I remember she was a mature student, and part of the teaching course that she did a lot of psychology courses, and so I would read her books. I read Ed de Bono and a number of other books that she had on her course, and so I started to think about those things in an early age, but it didn't mean anything to me because I hadn't really lived a life yet. I was still young. So I knew there were these tools and things out there. It was just finding them. And then it was, friends, and also just going onto the internet, seeing there's a free mindfulness 6-week course that was run in Southwark. I thought, that sounds interesting. So I did that, and there was a free anger management course in Southwark. And I thought, well, I don't think I have anger management issues, but I'm sure it would be interesting to find out. And that was an interesting experience. And it was funny that it taught me to look at anger in many different ways, not just in a caricatured kind of explosive, the explosive nature of how anger is sometimes presented, but looked at it from a very different perspective in terms of some behaviors that we are exhibiting. We wouldn't attribute them to being angry, but actually sometimes that can be where the root cause of some of the things that we do in our day-to-day behavior. So that was really kind of how I just started to find and look for the various tools that would be helpful for me. So it was just a real self-exploratory journey.
And just as you knew your body was speaking to the burnout stage, what have you noticed within your mind, body, and spirit now that you've changed so much to create more of a balance with your life?
I mean, it's a journey, so you're always learning, but I think I see the signs now much more easily than I would have before. So as soon as I see the signs, or I feel that I'm doing something that feels uncomfortable, I'm much more self-aware, much more willing to listen to myself, listen to my gut, much more willing to be less of a people pleaser and say, if I don't want to do something, I'm not going to do it. So I think just going through the experience and knowing the signs now, it's much easier for me to kind of regulate that. And it's interesting what you were saying when you led into this interview in terms of the quote from Ayala Van Zandt about people coming into your life for reasons, seasons, or lifetime. And I truly believe that as well. I mean, I was on a course, and this gentleman called Chris Warren from Australia, he was an overseas student, and we spent, it was a workshop together. We happened to get the train back, and he just said to me, you should read this book called The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, and I'd never heard of the book before, and I thought, well, it sounds interesting, so I went and picked it up, and I went in the shop, and I remember it was like £21 for this book, and I was like, £21 for a book, and the book was really thin. It was like, well, they better have the key to life, the knowledge that's going to get me to, I don't know, inner wisdom, inner peace. So I bought the book anyway, and it had so many really, really powerful lessons in there. And one of them was, don't take anything personally. And part of that kind of transformed how I started to think about stuff. I mean, the principle was nothing anybody does is because of you, and what they say or do is a projection of their own reality.
Right.
And then when you become immune to their opinions and their actions, you won't be a victim of suffering, because you won't be constantly responding and reacting to what other people are doing and saying about or around you. And I think that really, really made a massive difference to how I handled things. So just a passing recommendation was just really, really helpful.
And that's the thing, sometimes it could be something like a passing recommendation or something that someone says. Things resonate with us, and when they do, I always believe that it does it for a reason.
Yeah, I agree.
And that book sounds like it had been a really important book for you at that time, and clearly you still use the principles today, so it's really impacted your life.
Yeah, no, definitely. Things like that, and even things like, and you're right, you find wisdom and knowledge and tips in the rarest of places or the strangest of places sometimes, and it's just having acceptance of that. You know, you don't have to embrace everything, but at least just being open to exploring and seeing if it's something that would be of value. There's a book called Think and Grow Rich, and I read that book and I found it so impactful that I decided I was going to type up the whole book. So I typed the book from cover to cover.
Oh, wow.
And as a result of it, I just felt like just typing it and reading it as I was typing it, just the lessons in there would be imparted in a even more powerful way. And I feel like in some ways those principles are in my DNA now.
Wow. Yeah, that's they always say as well that if you want to remember something, just type it out or write it out, because it will stick. And so, yeah, your method made sense and worked.
I hope so. Yeah.
I think it did, because you've remembered it cover to cover. So how many pages, out of interest, was that book?
I think it's about 100 pages. The book. I can't remember exactly the number, but yeah.
But it's still dedication, though, and it's knowing. I think what I take away from that is knowing what you need to do for yourself in order to remember. Yeah,
and it's that kind of. My first degree was in media, and I used to love television and love film. And I remember watching Karate Kid, and the whole wax on, wax off, and the fact that he trained the Karate Kid in the lessons and ways of life through the ordinary everyday things.
Yes.
And part of the whole kind of phenomenal Healthstyle piece is you just finding what works for you, and it doesn't necessarily have to be something that's structured or. I mean, I've tried lots of different diets and exercise routines, and because I'm an explorer and I love trying all these different techniques and health and well-being techniques. But you can find sometimes you can get the same benefits by being creative in your natural environment without spending money. So, for example, I hope I don't sound too crazy when I talk about these things, but like on the tube, I used to stand there and not hold on to
the railings.
The railing, because it was really good toning of my stomach and my legs. It was almost like surfing.
Oh, I love
it. So, you can get free exercise, so there's no reason not to try and find ways of putting little moments of fitness in your day-to-day life. But, I just feel like there's some simple things you can do that can teach you some great lessons. So just typing up the book was also because I can have a very short attention span, so that was really helpful to being committed. And also, I didn't used to have jobs for very long, partly the nature of the business and partly because I'd get bored. The last job I've had for 10 years, so, just doing small little exercise, step by step, small steps, kind of help build up the resilience or the ability to be able to do certain things you never thought you'd be able to do without thinking about it too much.
That's really interesting, actually. Yeah, just do what works for you. And I might have to try the train with not hold on to the railings. That sounds like a really good idea, and it's also slightly fun as well, putting the fun back into your routine. So I think that that's what I take away. And also, just before I let you go, what's next for Phenomenal Healthstyle?
Well, it's still in lots of ways a hobby blog. I do enjoy my job. I love my job, and it's given me great opportunities to travel. And I feel like it helps me to practice what I preach because it's a busy job, and it means that rather than completely changing my lifestyle, I've tweaked it and made it work for me. So what's next is I'm continuing to publish weekly newsletters. So if anybody wants to sign up for the newsletters, just go to phenomenalhealthstyle.com and you can sign up there. We're relaunching the PH website in August as well, and we'll have an online shop with a number of different things, books, courses, webinars that can help you find your balance.
Ah, brilliant. That sounds amazing. Zena, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. Actually, I always end with asking you, what do you appreciate today?
Today, I appreciate the opportunity to see lots of friends that I haven't had an opportunity to see for a while because I've been away. And I appreciate the fact that you've been given this great opportunity to have your own show so everybody can see your light shine brightly.
Oh, Zena, that is lovely. Thank you very much.
Thinking about what we are, thinking about what we do. What do you mean to me? What do I mean to you? How many times have we felt the necessity to be together? 'Cause separate never